Hi, welcome back to Space Thoughts. Back on April 27th, we talked about the National Environmental Protection Act, the NEPA, in particular how Viasat was trying to use NEPA to stop SpaceX from deploying a Starlink satellite. And it did this in the context of a filing SpaceX made with the FCC to lower the altitude of its current satellite constellation and actually put more satellites within that orbital realm. The FCC, as if you go back to the video, actually addressed the idea of NEPA and basically argued that NEPA is categorically excluded from environmental assessments, and therefore the whole idea of an environmental assessment needed for Starlink satellite is not required. So Viasat seems to be taking this a bit further. They're not going to let go of this. They're not going to let go of this, and they're actually moving forward with potential legal action probably within next week. There was an article in Space News, and I'll put the link right down here in the comments, that basically says that that Viasat issued the FCC a petition requesting that it stay any further launches of Starlink satellites until it's had time to perform an environmental assessment of the Starlink satellite system. Now, chances are the FCC is not going to agree to this. They're just going to reject it outright. And at that point, Viasat on June 1st is going to file in the Federal Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia, and potentially to try and get the FCC to do what it wants in terms of doing an environmental assessment. Now, I'm sure this whole complaint is already drafted by Viasat's lawyers and just waiting to be filed. I haven't seen it, obviously, but I can probably give you a few ideas of what's going to be in this potential filing. And I really see this coming, because I don't see the FCC actually acquiescing to Viasat's stay of petition and actually performing an EA. So fundamentally, I think what's going to happen, you're going to see two things. You're going to look for some sort of injunction or some sort of temporary action to restrain the activities of further launching of Starlink satellites. And you're going to look for a declaratory judgment. In other words, the Viasat will probably petition the court to declare or to rule in its favor, rule that the FCC is required to perform environmental assessments under the National Environmental Protection Act for the Starlink satellite systems. And three, it's going to be looking for an order to actually order the FCC to perform this environmental assessment on Starlink before permitting SpaceX to launch further Starlink satellites. Now, during this whole thing, probably going to have some sort of stay anyways until the court makes a decision. That means the license that SpaceX has already been granted to launch Starlink satellites will probably be temporarily held until this is actually resolved. And this is actually kind of damaging in a sense for SpaceX, because if you have been paying attention to the internet and news in particular, that they've been having a very high tempo of deploying their satellites. So this is definitely going to cause a hiccup for SpaceX in launching these satellites, and especially if what we call a temporary restraining order is issued by the court saying you shall not go any further until we've had any time to basically determine whether a permanent injunction is needed, or until we decide whether or not the environmental assessment is needed, or until an environmental assessment is performed. So this could cause SpaceX a lot of problems, and in particular, another ancillary problem is all these launches that are scheduled down in Florida for Starlink will probably be put on hold. So you're going to have all those slots opening up, and you're going to have to rearrange the schedule. And so the overall effect of this, in a sense, it's probably going to delay the Starlink deployment. And again, I haven't seen the complaint, but as soon as it becomes available, that's something I will go into and look at and analyze and get back here and do another video. So I want you to understand this whole idea of NEPA application isn't over. Viasat is really going to go all the way with this, and I'm really not comfortable with this whole idea. I mean, for my own reasons, for my own analysis, I don't think NEPA applies to outer space, and I'm concerned that going into a judicial setting where a federal judge who has never been exposed to space law or doesn't understand space law and policy might be confused by the issues and might actually make a decision without taking into consideration other political, other policy factors or other legal factors or outer space in general. And again, that's because, again, I emphasize this a lot, the uniqueness of outer space. You really can't compare it to the terrestrial domain, air, land, sea, or the Antarctica. They're just not the same. They're very big differences. And I think those differences will be very important for a judge to make their decision in this upcoming litigation. And I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. I'd really be surprised if the FCC acquiesces and issues a stay. But anyways, that's all I have for this one. It's going to be short. But as soon as we have some more information, or as soon as the filing is put out with SpaceX, we'll get on and do another video, and I'll analyze the complaint, and we'll go from there. So until then, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.